I'm Alex Babar. I'm product marketer at Ping Identity.
Hi, I'm Itai Zach. I'm a product specialist for Ping ID at Ping Identity.
So today, like you see, we're going to talk about kind of moving to the cloud. If you guys were, anyone who's in the last session, heard Shell talking and Lauren, our VP of product management, talking a little bit about the chasm. You got all the way multi-tenant IDaaS down to on-prem software and everything in between. So we're going to focus on the IDaaS side of things today.
So I'll let you run. I step down. I'm coming back.
Okay. All right. So first, I want to just introduce Dan, our fictional IT director. So Dan has the best security vision. He's papers up all over the wall. He's talked about different use cases. He's going to conquer. He has his strategic goals over here on the right. Got his long-term tactics, technical requirements over here on the left. He's considering user experience and all that sort of stuff. So he's come to Identiverse. He's super excited about all the cool stuff he's going to go back and implement. But then something happens. He has to react to it. All his plans crumpled up. He just needs something right now. He knows the long-term phased approach. He just has to react. He has to get something out this quarter. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Why is that the case? Why is it so hard? Well, you kind of see here, this is just our take on a frustrated user. There's just a lot going on, right? They've got their Salesforce, their Office, their Workday, their Slack, that sort of stuff. A bunch of usernames and passwords. Single sign-on can kind of help for some of this stuff. But then there's also that security aspect, right? And then you've got all the other technologies you have in your enterprise as well. And it almost becomes like boiling the ocean, right? And anyone has heard that expression, how do you boil the ocean? You do it one cup at a time. So, in that previous story, in that previous slide, I was showing about, thinking about all this stuff, how we're going to conquer it. Reality is a little bit different, right? I just have to tackle one of these. I have to tackle another one of these. And next thing you know, you've got like 3 different MFA solutions you're using in your enterprise that you have to manage, do that sort of thing. But let's kind of talk about some statistics. So Ponemon Institute, I believe in partnership with YubiKey, did a really interesting study end of last year that I took some highlights out of. Basically about password problem statistics and this sort of stuff. And this is always fun to share. I'll give you my take on things as a marketer, as a someone to study economics. It just doesn't read too much into stats, but it's interesting to see how they worded things. So first on password reuse. So turns out that almost 3/4 of those surveyed have admitted to reusing passwords across 4 or more accounts. And to me, I thought the words here were interesting: 4 or more accounts and 3/4, right? So what does that number look like if I say 3 or more or 2 or more? 4 seems like a lot to me, but basically your users are reusing passwords. Sorry. So on password sharing, so they're also sharing passwords, these passwords that they're reusing. About 2/3 of users admit to sharing passwords with colleagues. And so this one, again, like looking at the words, admit it. So I assume the reality is much higher. With colleagues, I'm sure, with family and friends, that's higher too. So they're reusing passwords, they're sharing passwords. We don't know where those passwords are ending up, if they're compromised, that sort of stuff. Then again, we have the classic writing down passwords on Post-it notes or that sort of thing. So about 1/4 of users are still saying that they're doing this on paper. My joke to myself was, well, it's because now they're using like Notepad or text or notes and doing it on their mobile phone, right? No one uses pencil and paper anymore. That's why that's so low. Going to the next one on phishing attacks, like, well, is this actually a problem? What's the size of the problem? Are people being attacked? And so this one's interesting to me. It said 44% have experienced a phishing attack at work. So to me, about half of people, I interpret this, know that they've experienced a phishing attack. So again, this is one, I don't know how you would respond to this if you were experiencing a phishing attack, but you didn't even know it, right? So I think the reality of how many phishing attempts on these users has happened is somewhat higher than this 50%. This is an interesting one on the bottom right. This is a little bit on a different train of thought than the other 4 I just mentioned. It's just, so passwordless authentication, is this an option? Is this something that users would find value? More than half said they'd be happy if they could log in without a password. The theme here, if you haven't picked up on it, is these passwords are causing problems. They're causing security problems, which are causing user experience problems, and so on and so forth. It's causing problems for Dan, our fictional IT director. And at the end of the day, what's happening is, you see this kind of simplified graph. Effectively, there's no shortage of threats and risks that are coming in. The amount's growing, the frequency's growing, the volume's growing. The resources to tackle that challenge is not growing to the same extent. And so that delta is increasing is what we're seeing out in the market. And this is a business problem, right? So at the end of the day, as that delta increases, there's going to be an increased risk of security breaches, increased risk of account takeovers, inappropriate access to sensitive data and apps, just to name a few. And Ping's a technology company. We like to solve problems with technologies. So we kind of see this problem and say, hey, wouldn't it be nice to have a technology that helped you attack those risks without being a burden on your resources? And not only that, but it actually scales with you as you grow, right? So again, so you're not stuck with one solution over here, another solution over there, that sort of thing. And when we talk about MFA and SSO, think, okay, well, there's the 3 core tenets that we see customers today really looking for. And so there's this deploy rapidly and easily. It just has to be easy to use. A lot of times because, like in my story earlier, there's problems that have happened. There's a time element at stake. You're reacting, and it can't be fast enough. Again, you saw that graph earlier. It's improving the security. Everyone kind of knows that. Let's get to the reality of it, of I've got limited resources. This isn't going away. The problems I'm solving are more and more and more. So it just has to be a scalable solution in that regard. And then also, as far as I grow, I don't want to have to keep adding on different solutions, different expertise, that sort of stuff. I want something that can grow with me. But all that said, if that wasn't challenging enough, we also need to keep users happy. Right, so I'll hand it over to Itai for a second just to tell you a little bit about what we'll spend the rest of our time talking about.
Right, so we are going to show you some authentication flows under different conditions of different users, or the same user. So you see what happens actually in different conditions and how we can make it better for the user while still keeping high security. So the first example, we created a fake company called We Are Purple, which, like any other company in the world, is based in Delaware. And I'm going to show you the videos, but before that, I was going to tell you a little story about what happened.
All right, so here's the deal. I was preparing for Identiverse last week, and I use Ping products every day because I work at Ping. Spoiler alert. And I'm trying to get ready for Identiverse, which I'm sure a lot of you guys had to get a lot of stuff over the line. You're going to spend a whole week off at the conference. You're going to go back. And we're talking about what we wanted to present, and we actually ended up pivoting for originally what we were going to do because I feel like the story of the user hasn't been adequately told at any of the previous kind of identity conferences I've gone to. So this is a story of me, right? So last week, trying to get stuff done for Identiverse, not just Identiverse, I'm going on PTO after this, all the way overseas. And so there's just a lot of stuff. There's no time for challenges, right? That's the reality of the user, at least this one. And so on the way to work, traffic's bad, I'm tired, lack of sleep, all this sort of stuff. So let's stop at Starbucks, right? I could work from there, let traffic die down, do that sort of stuff. And as you see here, so there's like this relative security risk label I threw on here. This is relative to the use cases we're going to talk about today. So this is going to be our medium risk situation. Potential for bad user experience. So this is going to depend if it's before or after I get my chai latte. I'm not really a coffee drinker, but I love the chai lattes. So I'll hand it over to Itai to just show you what that user experience from my end looks like.
All right, so what you're going to see now is probably very familiar to you, just a regular authentication flow, user password, and MFA. I'm going to run the video. Where is my mouse? It's running? Oh, here it goes. So we see Alex put his credentials. You get a push notification to his phone. He will approve. And he logs in. We see We Are Purple. Nothing special here, but let's move to the next one. And back to you, Alex.
Yep. And so that's just one authentication of the day, right? The first one of the day. You can kind of see what happened there. It's pretty frictionless to me. In the demo, we had the iPhone. In reality, I have an Apple Watch, so it hooks up. Not a big deal. But then later that morning, I'm actually going into the office, right? Got through traffic, went to the office. You can see my name on there. It's my actual office. My office mate over here, Emily, she's awesome. She'll let me use her picture, by the way, for this. So now I'm at my desk, on my computer, in the company network, at my physical office location, and I just signed in at Starbucks not that long ago, right? If this, again, it's an opportunity to delight me as a user or frustrate me as a user, right? So we'll let Itai kind of show what that looks like.
So the next video is pretty similar to the last one, but there is a slight change. You will see that Alex is going to put his credentials. Ping ID service will look for the phone, but Alex doesn't get push notification, but still approve. So it shows like it's authenticating to the iPhone, but Alex didn't get any push notification, right? He was not bothered with the notification. So this is a case that Alex is actually in the office. What we really did, we know that Alex is coming from the network office. You see the IP address over there. We also know, based on the policy that we've created, that Alex's device, the mobile device, is in the office, right? So what we saw here is actually Ping ID service looking for, send a silent push call for the phone, right? The phone sends back the location, and based on that and the network, Ping ID service knows this is safe, right? We made a rule, and Alex can authenticate without getting any push notification. But if you look on the left side, we actually checked more than that. We know that Alex is in office, right? He went with a badge or maybe through security. He logs into the network, the office network, which require another password maybe, right? He has the device. He has his computer. And if someone going to ask me about tailgate, we can also create a rule that if it was a new device, not his device, right? We would go through authentication, full authentication. So still, we keep on security, high security, but better experience for the user. The last case is the IT admin. This is the IT admin office. You can see based on his equipment. The IT admin is not there. He's never there. But still, even if he's not there, he does his work, right? He can access everywhere, from everywhere to everywhere. And IT admins, they can access lots of very sensitive assets of the company, right? They can go, for example, to the firewall. They can log into the admin portal. They can block us. They can give us access. They can do lots of things. And in these cases, we might want to enhance security, right? We want to make sure that this is the IT admin. We might, for example, want to go through biometric, to use platform authenticator. So in this case, we will see the IT admin logs into the firewall, to Palo Alto firewall. It goes through authentication with Windows Hello. So Windows Hello recognizes him. The admin approves that, and he gets in. So this is the 3 videos we wanted to show. And now I want to talk a little bit about how it actually works, how the policy works behind the scene, what really happened there every time that the user log in and go through the policies in Ping ID. So this is how one of the policies. We see here 3 policies, actually. We see the corp firewall, right? This is the one, the last one we saw. The geofencing, this is the second one we saw. And the last one is the default policy, which is authenticate. This is the first one we saw. So in the policy, the first thing we will check, and this is the policy condition. What is my destination? Which service or application I'm going, right? And which group I belong to. In the third example, we had going to the firewall, right? And I belong to admins. And then the right policy fires up. Or in this case, it will be geofencing. Then I choose, so this is the policy condition. Then I choose what kind of authentication method I'm going to use, right? So for different application or different services or for different groups, I can use different authentication method. The first one was authenticate with face recognition. The last one was with Windows Hello, right? We can choose what kind of authentication method we want. And then we choose the rule. We can choose more than one rule in a policy. We see here 3 rules. The first one is authenticating from a new device. The second one, accessing from company network. This is the one that we saw in the second video. And when the rule is met, this is the action, right, which is approved in this case, that will happen. If we met a policy condition, but none of the rules is met, it's default to the default action, which is authenticate. But we can also do deny, for example, and deny the user, right? So they cannot authenticate in, they cannot log in. So this is how the policy actually works. All right, so to summarize that, from what we saw here, right, adaptive MFA on policies actually balance security. They don't really, not only balance security, but it actually improve the security and the user experience, right? We can increase the security in different policies, and we also can improve the user experience. We can choose different options. Rule options, we can deny, we can force them to do fingerprint or SMS, for example, or FIDO biometrics. And on top of that, we have also a device context policy. So I can set at the beginning device context policy, which means I can block users if their device is rooted or jailbroken. Or I can choose what is the minimum operation system that they can use with per device. And I can also pair it to MDM. I have more than that. I have plenty of rules there. So I can also add another security layer with device context when I make sure that the device itself is safe. So this is summarize what we want to show you here. And with that, I guess this is the last question, right?
And so in case you guys were wondering, so I've got everything done. This presentation is brought to you by Ping ID policy, right? So that's the reason that I'm able to kind of hop over here, hop over there, hop on different networks, do it securely, not have to worry about anything like that. So the question to you guys, what do your users look like? Just kind of, it's the afternoon, end of Identiverse. With that, actually, let's do this. I've got one more use case. Just kind of want to walk you through because it's my personal favorite, and then we'll go into Q&A. Looks like we got about a minute left. So this is the blooper reel. One of the days last week, there's not just work, there's also personal life, right? I had to take my girlfriend's car to go get it inspected. Need to go to the auto shop. It's like, oh, let's go work from there. Whoopsies, forgot my phone, so how am I going to do that now? So Ping ID has one policy I really like, basically backup authentication. Just want to show you what it looks like real quick, and then we'll head over to Q&A. So it's about 20-second video. So this is me trying to sign in. That's my favorite button, forgot your device. So in this, right now we have it set up just so email. There's a couple other options. So obfuscating my email, but opening it up here so you can see, getting the one-time passcode. It's like, okay, not a big deal, right? So I'm not harassing our IT guy who's busy on Slack. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just in pretty seamlessly, right? And this is all kind of empowering you all to make those experiences great.
And I think one comment on that, what's nice in that is the user doesn't need to actually configure or register the email as a backup authentication. It can come from the directory. The admin can set it up. The user even doesn't know, right? And if you forgot the device, they can see the button. You just need to educate them about that, and they can use the OTP as a second option.
Cool. All right. So with that, we've got about 5 minutes left for a Q&A, right on track. Any questions for me or Itai before we move on? Actually, hold on. You got a mic coming right behind you. Yeah.
I just have one comment. In our scenario, the doctors were actually complaining to us using Ping and Ping ID. The doctors were complaining that they were in a different country and they were not using their phone, and so they didn't have their phone, and our security didn't want email. So what we did was voice for them, so they can actually set up a call onto the whichever hotel they're living in, connect that, register with that, and should be able to still be able to log in.
Oh, very cool.
Voice option.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you're talking about, so was an SMS, voice, emails as backups.
As backups,
And then
yeah.
there's other
SMS, voice, and email. Those are the backups, but of course we have more authentication methods.
One question in terms of the authentication methods. Do you have the option right now to choose which authentication methods are available? So, for example, if you have some high-value targets in your organization, that you can enforce them on a FIDO2 authentication. I saw you have the FIDO2 authentication already in it. But can you set a policy that says this user is only able to authenticate with a FIDO2 authentication to protect him from phishing attacks, for example?
Yes, we can. So this is part of the policy.
Okay.
You can force them for specific groups, right, or specific application, or combination of them.
Yeah, okay. On that specific authentication method then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if
Any
you
other
recall, Itai had a slide up where he kind of like showed you at least what our policy page looks like. It's kind of like where the destination is going to. I could create something specific to that, what group they're coming from, so specific to that, then what authentication method. And so you can actually kind of configure what are allowable authentication methods, and now within the policy, what authentication method I could use. I think that's fair, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Wanted some information around the geofencing part. So how do you do it? Do you depend on some external third party to do some reverse geocoding?
No.
Kind of
So
thing?
once you have the application on the phone, right, the application on the phone actually sends back the location, the GPS location, to the service. And you configure, right, in advance, where is your office, where are your office location, so we check it against that.
Okay, so you have the coordinates, the latitude, longitude
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah, and it's possible when you're using the phone, the mobile phone application.
Yeah, and this was a subtlety. I'm not sure if everyone picked up on it. Itai spoke about it. When we're talking about my situation where I was in the office, and this is the Austin Ping office, right? And I was automatically approved. It's not that nothing was happening, right? So the phone was there for a reason. The phone is still kind of in the background sending that information. But me as a user, there's no active action that I need to make to have that authentication take place. It's just the phone sitting here. We're in the geo fence that Itai set up in that case. And I'm unbothered as
You would have to define that geofence.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So you can define those offices. I don't know if you noticed on the map there was a blue circle of the office, right? So we define the office location in advance, right? You can set, how many offices that you have there, right? And all the network locations of all the offices if you have more than one network, more than one IP, right? So you can set all of them, and then those are the places that every time a user log in from one of those locations, they will not bother with the push notification.
Thank you.
Oh, Greg, right behind you, the mic.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there an API to automate configuring all of those geolocations if you have more than a handful of sites?
Yes.
Like hundreds?
There is,
of
right?
thousands?
No, there's no. Any other questions?
All right, Itai and I are probably going to hang out for a few minutes. If anything pops into your head, call it a day. Going once, twice, 3 times. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.